So now we've covered the basics of the grease pencil. Change out the surface. We can go on to the B surfaces. Okay, but before we do, one last thing in here. I skipped over this earlier, but we want to change this data source from scene to object. Okay, and this will tell Blender that we're working on an object. Right, so I'm going to come back to my Tools tab, and I'm going to draw two lines. What B surfaces does is it allows us to create geometry between grease pencil lines. So I'm just going to draw two lines here. So if I draw one down there and one down there, we get nothing, absolutely nothing. The reason is to create geometry. Let me erase these. To create geometry, we need an object. Turn on screencast key so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is to add an object. Simplest one we can do is a plane. That's actually raised up in the air, so let me delete that. Recenter my cursor with Shift C and add that plane again. Okay, so we've got this plane. If we go into edit mode, with all four vertices selected, we can delete them. But we know we've still got the object because we've got the origin here and it's still in our outliner. So we're in edit mode. And what we can do now is draw two lines again. So holding my D key, I'll just draw two lines. Now if we look at the bottom of our tools panel, we've got a B surfaces panel here. What we want to do is we want to not allow loops on strokes, just use the automatic join. Okay, so we've got these two lines and we've got the add surface. If we press the add surface, you can see we've added some geometry, which is exactly what we wanted. If I go into a local view using my numpad slash key, you can see we've created this geometry from the two lines. We've got a couple of options here, which is the cross and follow. Okay, mine is defaulted to 5. As soon as I do that, it's because I'm in a local view. So let me delete that. It messed up. Okay, that's okay. Let's go back into an object mode. Let's delete that object. Let's add a new one. Let's just repeat the steps, delete the vertices. Okay. So I'll draw two more lines. Okay, and I can add a surface, which is done again. I'm not going to go into local view again because you've already seen that. Okay, what I was talking about was these two options here, which is cross and follow. Okay, now with the cross, by decreasing the number, you can see I'm decreasing the number of faces that appear downwards. So if I bring it up to 5 where it was, and we can do the same with follow, which will be the number of loop cuts, if you like, between the two lines. So we could increase or decrease. We're not seeing that because of the geometry there. But if I go into, say, a wireframe mode, you might see that easier. Not really, but trust me, it's there. Alright, so we've got this 5 and 5, and we're trying to get this to follow this model. Right. Now, the geometry is basically going straight between the two. So what I tend to do is I tend to add a modifier. And the modifier I use is a shrink wrap. Okay, so I've added a shrink wrap modifier to the plane object, which is still highlighted and still in edit. And the target I will select is Jim. Now you can see this is just coming up to the surface. So press keep above surface. This doesn't really work too well. I'm not sure why it doesn't. But sometimes to see it a little better, you can just add a little offset. With the offset, you'll be adding it and taking it away throughout. However, we can see that the geometry is starting to follow the shape of the skin there, even if it has got that little offset. And if I go into a smooth shading, shading UVs, if I select all, smooth, it's fine. We can see we're starting to get this geometry that's following the object. Okay, we've got a bit of poke through here, and you're going to get that because simply you've got faces that are intersecting where the original geometry is. What I tend to do here is I add another modifier, which is a subdivision surface. Okay, right, so it's adding a smoothness here, and what you can sometimes do, let me turn off this offset, is select all, grab and move this around, and it kind of sticks. It's not showing that well there. Okay. However, we'll still work with this. Let's add a little offset here. Okay, we can still work with this. So we're starting to create this geometry. Now, if I want to add more geometry, what I can do is I can select this row of vertices here, and I can draw another line around here. Okay, let's come back to Tools tab, down to the B surfaces. With this selected and the line selected, I can add more geometry. Now you can see it's starting to take shape. Okay, I can keep working my way around. Add surface. I can reduce the number of follows. The number of crosses will be the same because it's following the same number of vertices I had on my previous line. But I can reduce the number of follows to get slightly less dense geometry there, which is fine. I can do the same again. Let's come right the way I'm back here. Let's draw another line down here. Add the surface, and we're getting that. Okay, what we got here is we've got the, let me try this offset a little less now so I can see my geometry a bit better. You can see how it's closely hugging the skin. Okay, so we can extend out or almost extrude out in other directions with this E-surface. So if I was to select, why isn't that letting me select? Okay, select that one and shift select that one. Okay, so if I select these two vertices here and I draw another line up here, and I can add that surface. I probably want to increase, I can't increase the number of crosses because I've only selected these two vertices. But the subsurface is starting to follow the shape of the body here. Okay, if I select all, just grab and kind of move it around a bit, and then drop it back where it was. We see the subsurface is starting to follow there. If I start to decrease my view or my subdivision, you can see it's still following. But what we're seeing here is I've probably made this too wide around the whole arm. It's not allowing it to follow the shape of the body there. So Let me try a loop cut here. Control R. And I've dropped an extra loop cut in there, and now it's following a lot better. So Control R in there. And probably one over here. Control R. Okay. So that's wrapping quite nicely. So let me select this. Shift select that whole lot. I'm going to draw this in a little bit. So D, a line there, and we'll add a surface. Maybe a couple more follows. Okay. Just for the sake of showing this now, I've gone back into object mode. I can hide the original model. Okay, I can select this one. Let's smooth this out with the smooth shader, and you see we're starting to get good representation of the original body. Okay, and we can keep working that way. Okay, so let's select the original mesh again. Go into edit mode, and we've got one loop here, it looks like, and we want to kind of fill in a square up here to come around the body. So what I can do is I can select all these other vertices except the one that's in the corner. You'd never want to select that, because then Blender considers this all one line. Okay, so now if I draw a new line up here to kind of square this out, and I add a surface, you can see that it's starting to add the surface. Alright, it doesn't look like it's done it perfectly. This can happen. So let me hide this main mesh. Let me edit this one again. What we can do is come back and draw in some faces here. Let me turn down the subdivision, which it is down. Okay, so I could select these four, create a face, create a face. Might be easier to select on the back side. Create a face there. That didn't work because somehow this one was selected. Create a face there. Create a face there. Okay. Now the reason we're having troubles here is because we had more geometry down here. So we would probably have to resolve this a little bit better. And the way I do that is I've got two extra vertices here. I'll just add a loop cut on this edge here. So Control R, 2, scroll to 2. Now we've got enough geometry to complete this in quads. I had something wrong selected there. Let's check around the back. Yep, this one over here. And create a face there. Okay. Now we're seeing some anomalies here, different shading and different normal direction. Okay, so what I can do is I can select all my geometry here, come to my mesh menu, and I can go into my normal menu or Control N, recalculate the outside, but actually it's recalculated it all inside. So I can come back to my normals and flip the normals so they're all outside again. We've got some flat shading here. with the whole lot selected, we can come back, shade all faces smooth. Let me go back into object mode. Now we see we're starting to build up this very kind of accurate representation of the original model. Okay, so that's how we can start to create geometry. Now I'm just going to do something else here. I'm going to select this line of vertices here, and I'm going to delete them. The reason I'm going to do that is because this model is symmetrical, even though the geometry isn't, the model is, okay? And why model both sides? All I need to do is add another modifier, which is a mirror modifier. And now you can see we're modeling both sides at once.